now. Welcome, Suzanne. How-
Hi. Oh, we're recording.
yeah, you already started. It's all good. Give me a little recap on who you are and what you do before we jump in.
I'm Suzanne Gerber. I'm a local astrologer and shamanic practitioner and energy healer and spiritual coach.
Well, not just local, you do this worldwide, right? And these videos go worldwide, so you can do all sorts of virtual magic.
Yes, absolutely. And I've been doing it more virtually than ever, but my business has been virtual for a long time because I've been working with people in a lot of different parts of not just the country, but around the world. I meet in various retreats and different teachings, and they become my friends and my clients.
Yes, definitely. Tell me how you got involved. How did you find astrology in the first place? Like, how did you fall in love with it, make it into a career, make it such a big passion project?
I think those are two completely different things. I think, like so many professional astrologers, we would say that astrology found us. We don't even know how we found it, but we did. And usually when we were fairly young, it was some kind of obsession with the stars or the night sky or maybe a book. For me in third grade, probably my first ever science project, I did the entire solar system in great detail. So there's always been a draw to it. And so I've been doing it for pretty much my whole life, but how I made it a profession was slowly, because I had another career in journalism for a long time, but I was always doing the astrology on the side. And then a point just came where it became very clear the universe just shifted things, shook it around, and it was, no, I'm supposed to be doing this work, especially with the healing component. And that's my favorite part, when it isn't just talking, because anybody can talk to you about your chart, then what?
Yeah. Well, and that's like what are you doing differently than just talking about the chart? And can you explain a little bit about the way you work with your session work and
First of all, it's always different. It really depends on what the person is seeking, right? You can't give somebody something that they don't want. So people who tend to find me tend to be on spiritual quests. They're looking for things that they're not finding in their everyday life. It's just sort of this natural attraction, the people that find me or that I find. And they want to go deeper with their lives. They don't just want to know, well, when this transit happens, I'll meet somebody, or when this happens, I'll be able to get out of my job. They want to understand the reasons, the meaning, the soul piece of what's really going on. And so when I talk to people, that alone can be a healing when we open up the way we look at their lives and their experiences. But then for the people that really want to go deeper, we actually turn it into a healing session where we might do shamanic work. We might do soul retrieval work. We might just do chakra balancing or cleaning, which is something we could all use all the time. Sometimes people have these weird energetic blocks or attachments, which sounds scary, but it's just things that are taking their energy away from them, and they don't even understand why. And sometimes we just do kind of hypnotic work where we go back and we find old wounds and old traumas, and we imaginatively and in a very safe way, I guide the person to find it, and then it's so different for everybody that it's even hard to talk about this piece of it. But it's just using what I see diagnostically in the chart, and then working with it with the person, because people can only tell you the stories they know, but astrology shows us the things that they're not acknowledging.
Well, and something that you do that's unique to a lot of astrologers I've seen is that you almost channel messages, or you do channel messages that are working with the chart, right? So you get this really unique spin on it that it's a lot deeper and a lot more powerful than a lot of other readings that I've had. And so there's something like that's part of your big gift. And I don't know if you can expand on that a little bit, but
I can expand on it to the degree that I'm aware of what's happening. I'm very nerdy, and I came at my astrology from a very studied place. You know, I had a teacher who, in the middle of our reading, she'd say, where do you see that in the chart? And we had to be able to explain where we would see it in the chart, because otherwise you're kind of a psychic, right? You're just a medium. But what I love about astrology is that it is so, and this can sound funny to people that haven't had an experience with it, but it's really very scientific. And it's actually very accurate when you know how to work with this code. It's just divine code, right? And so for so many years, I was just this very studious, you know, Moon in Virgo, analyzing, understanding angles, repetition, honors, things like that. And then people started to say to me, you know, you're channeling, right? I'd be ridiculous. I'm reading like a professional trained astrologer. And then it just started to come through more and more. And I just realized the more I would just open to it and let it flow, but there had to be feedback for me, because things always have to be very evidence-based. And when people would say to me, wait, why'd you use that word? That's like the very word, some obscure thing that would come to me that they had journaled about that morning, or just, it's so coincidental. It's just, except it can't be, right? And so when I started to trust that more, and let that become a bigger part of the reading. But it's really funny, because when I'm reading for people now, and I'll just get this thing and I'll go, wait, hang on. And then I'll go and I'll look in the chart and I'll make sure that I can actually justify what I'm saying. And sometimes I'll stop and I'll go, let me rephrase that. But usually I'd say 99% of the time, the thing that I'm sensing is right there in the chart.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about you a lot during these sessions, because you do such a great job of confirming or explaining, you know, our soul's purpose as it relates to the chart. So I know, like, when I met you and you did work for me, of course, like, I'm already living this life, I'm doing this work, or I have this community center, or this business mind, or whatever. But it was really confirming for me to be like, okay, I've always felt like this about what I want to share with the world, or what I need to share with the world. And on a deeper, more spiritual way than just, it says in your chart that you're going to organize people, you know? I mean, like, it's a little bit more exciting, I guess, and with more opportunity to explore it.
Well, I think that is one of the really exciting things about astrology, is that the more conscious people become and the more they really are living their Dharma, they kind of know it, but they don't have an objective way to look at it the way we do when we look at a chart. You know, we don't all use the same language. I don't say the same things to everybody all the time. I don't talk to all Scorpios the same way. You know, everybody is so unique, and the chart reveals that. So what I'm trying to do is work with the person who is in front of me,
Yeah.
who's on the screen in front of me, but I'm not even really looking at the person. I'm really looking at the chart, and it's really speaking to me. It's the way my intuition comes through. But soul purpose is such an important part of what astrology can show us, because, you know, a lot of people, when they become self-aware, they know their behavioral patterns, they know their attachment style, they know what they're attracted to, and what they've learned to stay away from, because it isn't supportive and healing for them. But when we get into the nodes and the Chiron and Saturn and the things that are really more weighty and really speak more to what the soul is here to do, not just the part of us that's here to have fun and do service, that's really great, that's really important. But I feel like in the last many years, I feel like more people are interested in purpose. And now we're recording this in the middle of the virus, in the quarantine time. And I think people with so much time on their hands, if they're not numbing out with distractions, whether that's alcohol or Netflix or anything in between, the people that are utilizing this time and going deeper and deeper with all the beautiful offerings that are available online, people are really starting to tune into themselves in a different and deeper way. So I think that looking at a chart this way is more helpful now than it ever has been in the past.
Yeah. And that's entirely the whole reason that I'm even doing these project, the Dharma Sessions. I mean, we've talked about doing this for months and months and months, way before the time of isolation began. But that whole example of of using this opportunity to really dig deep and find our soul purpose if we haven't already, or to finally choose it if we have found it or we've danced around it. I think that's what's so powerful. You're the first person to really anchor that in, partly because it's so appropriate with your role, but that
Well,
was kind of the underlying concept of starting these interviews for me, was really to help people to get out of their own way and really choose to explore these deeper callings if they haven't yet, or if they have begun and found excuses, or life has gotten in the way, or they haven't had time or given themselves the time to really be creative and explore those big dreams.
or they've let resistance come in and paralyze them, because we always have
Yeah.
time to face it.
Well,
We just
exactly.
have no time. It's not about the time.
Yeah.
It's like that great meme that probably most people have seen. It's about the image of like a really messy house, and the verbiage is, I always said that if I had the time, I'd clean my house. I guess that wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
It's not about
It,
the time. It's about just saying, I'm going to do this. And I wanted to just add to one thing you said about people finding, digging and exploring, and almost like you're going shopping for clothes. You try something on. Is this my Dharma? Is this my Dharma? Is this my soul path? Here's what is so interesting to me. I'm producing this astrology summit that's going to be live starting in May, talking to all these amazing astrologers and shamanic practitioners. And one of the themes that has come out of it is we don't just have one life purpose.
sure.
Some people might, we're all so different. You can't say one thing's true for 7.5 billion people. But I think it's really helpful for people to think in terms of, well, when I was in my 20s or 30s, that felt like my sole purpose. I was supposed to, get my career on track and make some money and save some money and raise my children and get them, on track with their educations. But then in your 40s and 50s, and it doesn't even break down by decades, but that's just a common example, right?
Yeah.
We start to realize we have different things start to call to us, because as we're evolving, our chart evolves. The chart is not this static thing. As we grow and evolve and expand, the meaning, the layers of meaning in the chart start to reveal themselves to us. And then, so there's your birth chart, as you know, just that's the snapshot of the sky of the moment you're born. But the planets in the sky are always moving around and activating different parts of your chart, different really key elements. And that's why we can go through healing crises, or we can have these opportunities open up to us. We're like, where did that come from? Doesn't matter where it came from. It's partly you manifested it. It's partly you're stepping into your fate. And when things are aligned, when you're ready for it, your karma ripens and you have these opportunities. And that's the other beauty of knowing how to work with the chart, is you see really good timing and opportunities opening up. And, the opposite of that is maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe this is more of a time to go inward instead of trying to bring it out in the world, or vice versa. 1,000 other possibilities.
Yeah. And I think that that's really a big thing about right now too, is just, respecting that maybe that is the time to go inward. It doesn't mean that this is the time to launch something big for everyone or to reinvent themselves. Some of it is really just a self-reflection, but that's also a gift in this time, I find. Just allowing the time to just be with yourself, and maybe you just get more time to meditate, or maybe you get more time to nap and dream, or to write, or connect with others, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be some big extravagant launch.
Right. And it's different for everybody. I mean, even though we're in isolation, so many people are launching beautiful things. It has to do with their own cycles, not the outer cycle, right?
Yeah.
It's really where they're at. I keep asking for guidance in my meditations. What am I supposed to do? What's my next step? What should I do about this or that? Sometimes it's really micro little things, and sometimes it's really bigger with my career and bringing my work to people. And I just keep getting the same message in a lot of different ways. It's like you keep drawing tarot cards and you get the same message, maybe with different cards, maybe with the same
So
card.
you hear it. Yeah.
What they keep telling me is You can't plan for out there. You simply can't. Things are going to become very obvious what to do. The more conscious I can stay in every moment, the more clarity I'll have about how to act. I think when we project too far in the future, we leave our center. We leave where we have our power, and we're dabbling in a time that isn't real. The future isn't real. The past isn't real. The past happened. The future will happen. But there's only the now, and the more clarity that we can get in the now, I think, the clearer what our steps are supposed to be. And like what you said, meditation is probably one of the best things that everybody can be doing right now.
Sure. And this is sort of an interesting time to really get present, because we don't know what the future holds, and it's almost impossible to plan it really too much. This isn't like 6 months ago where I can plan what I'm doing with my business next month. There's a lot of things that I have no control over, and that I can't predict. So it requires a little bit more looking within, and micro steps and one day at a time type shifts, just to kind of recenter.
I think this opportunity is one of the greatest lessons of it that is just starting to become revealed to so many people. This is really how life is. It's really full of uncertainty. We think we have this control over our future and over what happens. But in reality, we all know we don't. We all hear these stories about super healthy people that, dropped out of a heart attack while they're doing their marathon training, or these things that just don't make any logical sense.
Sure.
And that's what this is I think on a really grand and collective scale, is it's saying to us, you guys don't know. So take care of you in the moment. Take care of your inner self, because that's from which everything else will spring forward. And take care of each other.
Yeah, big time. And it's unfortunate it took this to have that realization, but at least it's happening.
Well, when we don't listen and we don't get our lessons the easy way, our guides are going to come in and they're going to go, oh man, I can't believe you're going to make me, turn up the heat on it this much. And this is the collective karma, though, yeah. Because none of us is here by mistake. Wait, this is the wrong lifetime. Let me be here. Every one of us on some level chose to be here now.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. And we're just beginning to get glimmers of understanding of it.
So what are you using this time for as far as new beginnings or creating new shifts for yourself?
Part of it is a refinement of things I've been doing.
Uh-huh.
I'm just making more time for the things that are really important to me, my meditation practice. Because if I'm not meditating, I can't really talk to other people about doing that. That's just, that would be like me trying to teach somebody carpentry. It
Sure.
would really turn out well. I better know what I'm talking about. I mentioned that I'm going to be hosting this online summit. That's new for me. And from there, I think I'm going to have to get over one of my really big hurdles, which I'm getting over right now, thanks to you.
Yeah.
Learning how to be comfortable in front of a camera and just let it be as natural as if you and I were sitting together somewhere else. And so that's part, for me, it's not so much that that's an initiative in my career, but that's a big personal hurdle that I need to work on, because that is part of my resistance to moving forward in a big way. So I don't think we always have to, for some people, they're going to want to reinvent their careers or reinvent how they do relationships. For me, a lot of it is just finding where I'm getting in my own way repeatedly and insidiously, and just stop. Just like the way I work with my clients, just what are you getting out of that? Not what do you think you're getting out? What are you not conscious of that you're getting out of it? Which is usually you don't have to try, because you're so afraid that you're not going to succeed that you don't even show up.
Yeah.
So that's
and I don't think the new beginnings for everybody have to be something big. For me, it's the same. I mean, getting in front of the camera is the same sort of fear for me. And I was talking about that this morning, just with somebody also doing this, Beth, who you know, and just that I can go back and listen to all these and hate the way I sound or the way I look or the camera angle or the tone or whatever part of it. But really, it's still just a matter of getting out there and starting it. So for those of us who have outward facing businesses, being on video is a huge part of it. I think I've been resistant to it for years and years. I have all my amazing staff and collaborators that are often really good on camera, and I put them in front of it because they're braver than I am. But it is just a matter of just doing it. And that's its own new beginning for me during this. It's not some huge, big launch or some, massive reinvention, but it's a little shift that is powerful and significant because it may not have happened if this time hadn't started, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really great point that you're making, to remind people that, not to compare and despair, right? This one just launched that portal, and this one just, I don't even know, created an online e-store. Just not to look at what other people are doing, just to look inward and to say, what is it? What is it that I've been resisting? Where have I been getting in my own way? And part of it might be that people have been afraid to become vulnerable emotionally in their relationships. And for some people, it might be they just stay in their secure job because, it's a salary and it's benefits. Well, what are we learning now? There's not necessarily such a thing as a secure job. Even people working in good, solid companies with good paychecks and benefits, companies, if they don't have a market, they're going to get furloughed or laid off. And so this is a time to just get so achingly real with ourselves. And the thing about video that I wanted to add is, what's so funny is we look exactly the same to other people as we do in real life. They don't think we sound different. They don't think our voice is funny or our tone or our look or mannerism. This is how they know us. And we go, oh man, I look so bad. They go, you look great. You look like you always do, maybe even better. So other people's positive feedback can really help us.
Yeah. And I think that that's a big part of it too, is just taking one little tiny step and realizing that we are outward facing by our careers in the first place. For at least you and I, for example, this is what we do. We're comfortable with people. We're both super extrovert, community builders, basically. It's easy to present in front of a group of 20, 50, whatever, in person, but yet it's getting over this story that we have just filming one video.
Yes.
So it's been kind of a fun shift, and I'm excited that you took the plunge and got on here, because you're great with this and you have so much amazing stuff to share. So it's significant, I think. Yeah. What's one big thing to shift to get out of your own way? I think you just talked about that with filming. I think that's huge. Is there anything else that kind of needs to shift for you?
I think it's really looking at my need for structure in my day and what happens when I don't have it, or when it isn't imposed from the outside world. I've been working for myself for almost 20 years now in one form or another. But I have this very strong Saturn in my chart, so I create structure even when there isn't structure. I could just be out in the desert and I'd be like, what time are we going to do the camel thing? It's like, I need my time. I need my structure. And it's very interesting for me to allow myself I'm not working out outside of the house, so I don't have to, be in a studio or a gym at a certain time. So that means, it's so shocking, I don't have to set an alarm unless I have a call with somebody in the morning. And so I'm working with it. The other thing that Saturn does, besides give us structure and give us a time awareness, it gives us a lot of guilt. And so they're very, for me, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. I think a lot of people would say, yes, part of my success is that I have this structure and I have these routines and I stick to them. Well, now that those are fluid, like everything else in our lives, what do we do? Do we like those structures? Are they really helpful? Or sometimes can they be oppressive in our lives? So for me, it's really just not judging it and not laying any shoulds on myself. Like, well, why don't you should do this? Like, I don't know. Let's just see how this feels and see if I am, able to fulfill all my chosen responsibilities.
Yeah.
They're not really obligations, they're choices to show up for other people.
Yeah. I've been feeling that same sort of, I guess, internal pressure in some ways about like, should I be setting an alarm? Why am I not setting an alarm? Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I burned out? Am I not burned out and just making excuses, whatever it is. And it's because I operate the same way that you do on that. I like my schedule and my checklists and things like that. So this has been it's a forced sabbatical, but I've always been one to believe that those are really necessary for people for a reset where you almost, I mean, not, you don't have a blank slate per se, but you really have an opportunity to reset in a way that you wouldn't normally, if this hadn't happened. So that's the gift, at least for me right now.
These things that might seem very inconsequential to other people, that's just where I'm at, and for
Yeah.
me, these are really big. Like, and of course, looking at how can I really be of service? Everybody is putting out such beautiful, generous, free offerings. And I just keep thinking, how can I do that? Because, my core work is one-on-one individual readings. Now, you can't put that out there for the whole world for free. I mean, there's not enough time, and I do have to earn money. So there's the practicalities of that. But so for me, there's this like widening of the way I think of myself, like, just opening up my viewfinder of, well, I have a lot more to offer than that. I've been studying spiritual and esoteric teachings for 30 years. I've been blessed with the most amazing teachers and have had extraordinary experiences. So instead of just thinking in terms of astrology readings, you could call that brand extension, but it's
Yeah.
really about what is it that I have to give right now? Because I think that's what we're all being invited to do. What do you have to give? Because that's what you should be doing.
Well, exactly. And that's the whole purpose of these calls for me, is not just to talk about, how we love our jobs. It's how we love what we do by choice and the ways in which it helps other people. And the reason that that's part of why we love it. It's that full circle, not just punching the clock and convincing ourselves that we love it. It's the intrinsically rewarding work that gives back and that we feel good about, that heals us at the same time as healing others. And all of that stuff I think is really significant regardless of what the role is. I don't have anybody that's popping onto these calls that's not in that active role of something that is service related, really, on some level.
And
So
I think, there's many ways to define dharma, right? There's, kind of the strict, Hindu definition of it. But there's also just kind of a more colloquial way of saying your dharma is the work that you can't not do.
yes, 100%. And that's exactly the definition or the approach that I used when naming Dharma Hive in the first place. It had lots of different names in its build up, and that was the biggest reason. It's, I don't personally want to work with anybody who's not feeling that way about what they do. And collectively, I think that that's the people who are drawn to listen in and who are really searching. And I think that as an extension of that, that's the people who spend time at Wild Ginger, and people we connect with or teach and learn from are people who are feeling like there's absolutely nothing that they could ever choose that would feel as satisfying as that. Like they are in their purpose and their passion in all ways. So
One of the things
yeah.
that one of my teachers would say, she would ask us, she'd say, if you could put something out into the world, the thing you want to put out so much, but your name would never be attached to it, nobody would ever know it came from you, would you still do it?
Yeah, I love it. Well, and it's the same sort of question of like, what would you do if you were having to pay to do it? And is it the same thing? And I think for most of us, we can say that that's exactly what the work we do is. I would certainly be paying to do the work that I do with both businesses. And I know you would do the same, which is why it's such a treat to work with passionate individuals like that.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. And people get very tripped up over is this my highest passion? Is this my highest calling? You don't have to, there doesn't have to be an ultimate or an
Yeah.
absolute or an only, there's a lot of room, there's a lot of crayons in that box of 128
Yeah.
crayons. We can color with them all, just keep doing. You'll know, because you'll get that, that hit, that resonance when you find it, and
Yeah.
and not to get hung up on the perfection of it.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing ending advice. Do you have 3 words that embody the work that you do before we leave?
Well, words are my stock in trade, but if I had to come up with only 3, I would say integrity, service, and the word that kind of would consume all of the others is love.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thanks
There
so
it
much for sharing all the goodness, and you're gonna have lots of people excited to explore their chart with you, I feel like, after this. And
is.
you're the first person to out me for being a Scorpio on these, so no big secret to anyone.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you, Suzanne.
inviting me to play along.
Of course. Talk to you soon.